Hello YouTube, today we are talking about installing a home security camera system. The one I picked up here is just a relatively inexpensive one from Sam's Club. The reason I picked it was it comes with 8 cameras, so you've got 2 boxes with 4 each there, 2 boxes of the cables, and then you've got your digital video recorder system. Now the one I'm replacing, I have the one from Harbor Freight, and I will say for the price, it's been a really good system. It certainly has its shortcomings. Number one, it's 4 cameras, and I haven't found a place where you can find additional cameras, even though the system seems to support more than 4. Number 2, the camera quality seems to diminish over time fairly rapidly. Number 3, I've had 2 systems, and one of them has a particular problem of, for lack of a better word, locking up. And so all of a sudden you think it's recording stuff, and you go to check something and it hasn't been recording for days or weeks or months because it's locked up. And the only way to unlock it up that I've found is to reformat the hard drive and totally start over. So not only do you not have footage of things that you might have needed footage of, you lose all existing footage to get it back to working. So that's the reason why I'm switching. Well, several reasons why. Like I said, this one comes with 8 cameras, but hopefully this one will also not have that lockup problem. And it really wasn't that much more expensive than buying another one of the Harbor Freight systems. When you're going to install something like this, you need to plan in advance. First of all, where are you going to keep this unit? It needs to be somewhere where there's power. It needs to be somewhere where you can get to it. But you may want it somewhere where thieves can't get to it, because if somebody breaks in your house and steals this, then you don't have the proof that you may need. So I try to find a location where it's concealed and hard to get to the point where someone's not going to try to get to it. But you also need it to where there's power and ability to wire all the cameras to it. Then you want to plan out where you're going to put your cameras to get optimal viewing. You know, whether you've got to decide if you want to do the perimeter of your house, whether there's certain areas of your property that need better coverage than others, if you're going to possibly do any inside the house, so on and so forth. And then figure out with your wiring whether all those camera locations, the wires will reach back to here. Because if you have this somewhere and the wires won't reach to where you have the cameras, and obviously that defeats the purpose. So barring anything else, you probably want a more centralized location for this, because the wires for the cameras are usually all the same length, and unless you're really good with cuttering and soldering and so forth, you may not be able to customize or extend them. When you open up your box, you'll find the cameras look like this, and they have a video out and a power wire attached to them, and very similar to the Harbor Freight cameras that I'm replacing. They have a base with 3 screws. These look like they're a little bit bigger cameras. I'm hoping that the base matches so that I won't have additional screw holes in the house. When you open up the wires, you see there's 60-foot cables, an AC adapter with a splitter on it. So without reading the instructions, because why do that, I'm assuming you plug this in, and then probably these attached to here, and then go out to the camera, and there's probably a side on here that also attaches to the DVR. That's what I'm assuming. I'm joking, of course. I'm going to read the instructions just to make sure, but having done this multiple times already. I'm pretty confident that that's what it entails. And in the DVR box you have a mouse, power cord, and the DVR unit itself. And this is what the back of the DVR unit looks like. So you've got your 8 camera inputs there. I'm not sure yet what those RCA jacks are for. It looks like you got an HDMI, you got an Ethernet, 2 USBs, the power input, and I can't for the life of me remember what those are called, but it's like the old-fashioned printer type cabling. So here's the back of the old Harbor Freight one, and what I did, basically right at the ceiling here, I just put in a power box and ran all the wires through there up into the attic, and then obviously the wires route to the various camera locations. So at least for 4 of the cameras I'm putting in, I'm going to be able to take the existing wires here, tape the new wire to these, and then just pull them through. So when I pull the old wire through, it'll fish the new wire for me, hopefully without snagging on anything, and should make the job a lot easier. If you don't already have a system, obviously you're just going to have to fish the wires, which take a little bit of patience, and it helps if you have fish sticks and similar tools like that. So this is what I'm talking about with fishing the wires. You see I've pulled it through to this point, and then it's going to run across, and that's where the final camera location is. And so I'll just basically that wire there, I'll just pull it through until the white side's coming out. Picking a location for your cameras that you're installing, obviously you want them in places where you're going to get maximum coverage of your property, but you also have to consider the ease of installation. And so, for example, if we're going down looking at the soffit here, right there you can see a seam, and so there's probably a 2x4 under there, and trying to mount the camera there is going to give you wiring problems where you see the vent there. You know there's going to be access there, so when in doubt, I'll typically put the camera so there or on the other side, and the reason being I can put the wires right through where that mesh is without drilling any holes. If you do have to drill holes, obviously you just got to be ready to patch next to them so that there's no way for bugs or anything else to get in there. The other consideration is access to wherever the wires are ultimately going. And so, like, for example, the way the house is built is there's boards going upwards toward the center of the roof, and there's going to be passageways for the wires to go in between those boards, but obviously if you get this in the wrong spot, you're going to be blocked by 2x4s or even bigger boards. And sometimes, despite your best efforts, you may get stuck like that, but that's why I like going where these vents are, because there's typically access both in the soffit and then all the way up toward the center of the roof. And when you're installing in a new spot, you're going to need fish sticks to make the job a lot easier. And these are thin and they'll squeeze up through things, and these are glow in the dark, so like I've kept them in the sun right now, so if I stick these up in the dark attic, they will glow and you can see where they're at. And they can extend out, you know, attach 3 of them together so you can really do a long run. So I've opened up the soffit vent, and this gives you visuals, so kind of get a feel for where you can fish. So you see I've got the fish stick, 2 of them up there now, and so I'm going to go up in the attic and see where those are coming out at, see if that's a convenient location. When you get your cables, I recommend, I do both sides. I know technically you could get away with just doing one, but that way you can always match them up, and then when you are hooking these to your main unit, you're not going to know which is which if you haven't labeled them. And so, like with these, there's a side that goes to the DVR side and a camera side, and they've been nice enough to label that. So but if you fish the wrong side through, you're gonna be unfishing and refishing, because these are not interchangeable, even though you have to really look at them to notice that there is a difference, but it's being a male and a female on there. The other thing I've noticed with fishing wires, and I'm really good with math here, it's at least 150% chance, if not more, that whenever you're fishing wires, you're gonna catch on everything imaginable. And it always amazes me how a wire can literally be touching about like that, and no matter how hard you pull, it won't just bust through. So definitely one of the most frustrating jobs, I think, is fishing wires. So you want to make sure that you attach it strong enough that it's not going to come loose when you're pulling it through the attic, but you also want to leave yourself kind of a loose end on the end, so that when you do get it to the location that you're wanting, it's easier to unwrap it from the fish stick. Tape just provides a little extra security there. And then you want to make sure that you mount your camera so that it can point to where you want. Like, for example, these, there's only one way that they bend up, so if you mount it this way, you're not going to be able to face it that direction. So it's going to mount this way, and then just do turn. So that's right side up, that's the top. This way. And that's basically the process. You just repeat that at all your camera locations, and then after you've got everything wired, then it's pretty easy to fine-tune the cameras. You turn on your video source and see what they're seeing, and you can just move the cameras. You may need to adjust the angle or whatever to get the best viewing. When you've figured out where you're going to mount your unit, you need to drill a hole so that your wires can get down to it. And I will tell you in advance, make the hole a whole lot bigger than what you think you're going to need, because it doesn't need to be just big enough for the connectors to go through. You got to remember, you got all the other wires, so the first one goes through nice and easy, and they get harder and harder. So I made this hole about 1.5 inches so that everything can fit through there nicely. And previously I'd put the outlet here. I need to do a video on adding outlets in your house. It's super easy to do. Basically just get you a box and electrical wire, hook up to your little outlet, and then find a power source that's fused. But anyway, camera wires are all brought to this one location, drop down into here, and then underneath this hole is where the camera system is going to be.